Now. Okay, so happy Monday, happy October. It's a really big week here at our center. So I'll start by just going through what the agenda of the call today is going to be and things that we'll cover in our time together. So the first one is just a little bit of a check-in question for you all. So the question's going to be basically, what are you the most excited about for the professional development day that's happening on the 25th? Any questions that you may have. We could also just talk about what's been going well at your centers so far, or things that you want to check in on for the call today. So that's the first part. The second part, and Diana, you and I have already spoken about this a bit, but we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the PD day on October 25th. We'll go through what the flow of the day is going to look like a little bit. We'll also go through a little bit more in depth around the individual sessions for that day to see if you have any questions about any of the sessions. We'll talk a little bit after that about the Family Fall Festival that will be happening on October 31st. Go through again what that day is going to look like, materials that you'll be using, the lesson plan for that day, any ideas that you may have, and then briefly go over the next month in November, because you should have received the curriculum for November with the theme of buildings, builders, and gratitude. Okay, so Diana, let's start with you. What are you excited about for October 25th, questions you have, or needs of your center as of right now? There we go.
I think what I'm most excited about is to be able to have all the teachers in one room. Uh, Sometimes that's such a difficult thing here, is trying to kind of meet with the teachers. Even to schedule a small meeting is very difficult. So I'm very excited to be able to have everybody in one room to address questions, concerns, uh, in a timely fashion where I can take time and really give our explanations. Sometimes when I go in the classroom, it's a very rushed, job that gets done. So I'm excited to be able to give them my undivided attention.
Awesome, good. I know you've been craving that for quite some time. Are there lots of new staff that will be with you during that day?
Yes, that's who. Most of our staff. One, two, three. Yeah, so over a majority of them are almost new. I mean, I guess new in the sense maybe like in the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that maybe I'm waiting for some clearances for some new staff that I'm getting. So I hope that maybe this week some of them will clear so they can also start with us.
Oh yeah, so that would be a perfect introduction into your center.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. All right, and then are there any of the sessions specifically that you feel your staff really needs more support in as of right now? Like
Um,
if you look at the different sessions for the day.
yeah, I the routine, kind of like the calendar and what the day should look like. I feel like that's where my teachers need the most help because we are low on staff. Sometimes the flow of the day gets misconstrued and it doesn't. Teachers don't always follow it. So I would love
Mm-hmm.
to really come up with something where the teachers can follow regardless of staffing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel sometimes the lack of consistency in the classroom shows sometimes when I do observations.
Mm. Yeah, and you're not alone in that at all. That's something that we've seen across the board. And so hopefully some of these sessions and the content that will be covered can help provide some consistency amongst the inconsistencies that are very regularly happening at our centers. Okay. So what we'll do next is, I know you and I have spoken already about the flow of what October 25th is going to entail. But what I'd like to do is go through each session in more depth, the actual time and the session facilitation guide.
Okay.
And then after I go through each one, I'll pause and then take any questions from the group. Okay. So I'm going to mute for right now. So the first session, I'm going to look at the agenda for the day. So here we go. So the agenda for October 25th, I sent out to everyone a flow of the day that could be tweaked or revised based off of the needs of the specific center. But the time that you all have together, and this is everyone besides the Head Start programs, but if you're a non-Head Start program, the time together is between 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on October 25th. So even before folks come into the room and your staff comes into the room, you want to set the classroom up where everyone will be for that day pretty nicely. So you'll have the agenda for the PD day somewhere written. So when folks enter, they'll know what their time together will look like. Some EDs have also said they've wanted to like print out the agenda and give it to people as they enter, so they have some time to think about what they'll be learning and engaging in, and you can totally do that as well. You want to set initially the room up in a circle, because the first thing folks will be doing is team building in a circle time, similar to what they would be doing with children. And part of the PD day is really rebuilding a sense of learning community and togetherness at the centers. And many centers have been struggling with that for a variety of reasons. There could be peer teacher dynamics that have gone wrong along the way. Or there could also be just like older teachers partnering with newer teachers and not really knowing what that relationship will look like. So starting with the circle time is a good way to build team. I also recommend that you have a small entrance, like table upon the entry of the teachers, for little self-care materials if you have them, like fidget toys, maybe some coloring pages. Some folks participate or focus more if there's something that they could color at the same time, kind of like kids. You want to have some water there, some small snacks so folks feel like they're being taken care of, and maybe some sort of like lavender oil or something if you have it, if folks you feel are stressed out during that time. And then as people enter, you want to have some cool upbeat music just to set the tone that this is not them being lectured at. It's really a time for them to grow and develop. So that's the classroom setup. And then the first session, and you can kind of select this on your own, but from 9 to 9:30, your staff will come together for a circle time, just like the children should be doing right when they enter the classroom. So you're going to go around and have each teacher and co-teacher answer some sort of positively framed team building questions. I posed a couple actually. So maybe it's what your intentions are for the time together for that day. If you feel like your staff is stressed and exhausted and depleted, many centers have expressed that. Maybe you want them to share what is one thing they do to take care of themselves. Another thing you could ask, something that they're grateful for. One of my favorite questions is like, why did you choose early childhood education? I feel somewhere along the way for many of our centers, because of the nature of the job as it stands, folks sometimes lose sight of why they chose this job to begin with. So always reconnecting people back to their purpose is really great to increase morale and motivation. For some folks, it may even be as simple as their teachers who are in the room who are moms, and they really care about the care that's given to their children, so they want to give that to other children. Like, you want to reconnect folks with that. So that should be about 9 to 9:30. And then again, we're modeling what teachers should be doing with children. So you want to set folks up after circle time with some expectation around what their time together on that day is going to look like. So from 9:30 to 9:45, you'll go through the agenda for the day and the different sessions briefly with the teachers. And depending on your team, like some teams will need this, other teams may not. But if you feel as though your staff has been somehow interacting with each other in a way that's disrespectful, or folks have a hard time listening to one another, if that's part of your team dynamic, what you're going to want to do to set safe space is just pause and set some norms for the day. So folks feel safe participating. It could be, okay, during this time together, we are all actively listening. If you have to take a phone call, you take it outside of the room. Assume best intentions is always a good one. So even if folks don't agree with each other, assume that they're coming from a good place when they're talking. And then taking care of their needs. So, you know, using the bathroom, taking a drink, things like that if they need it so they feel taken care of. And then ask folks if there's something they want to add onto the agenda. After that, after you go through the agenda, I set a link for a video that's kind of cute about a teacher talking about 10 best things that she wished she knew when she first approached early childhood teaching. And then before the bulk of the learning really, really happens, you want to give folks about a 15-minute break to take care of themselves. Bathroom, you know, telephone, coffee, all that. Okay. So I'm going to pause there for a second. And then Diana, do you have any questions about the morning part?
No, I don't have any questions about the morning part. What I was sharing with you when we last spoke was that instead of me doing a circle time, I'm doing a get to know you bingo game with my staff.
I love that. Do you by chance have, I know that I've done that before, and there's typically like those bingo cards that you create. Did you create those out of curiosity?
No, I actually found this on a website.
Can you send me the link to that? Can you email it to me? And then I can send it to the rest of the directors because they're probably looking for some fun ideas. Another really cool team building idea that connects to the November theme of building and builders. I've done this challenge before in teams. It helps build communication. There's something called the Marshmallow Tower Challenge. It's a pretty cool team builder where this could be something maybe after lunch or something like that when folks need a little bit more rejuvenation. But you give people some spaghetti, some tape, and a marshmallow, and they have to see who builds the tallest tower with those materials, balancing the marshmallow on top. And the theme of the team builder is really like, how do we meet a really difficult goal with minimal resources? Folks tend to really, really like it, and it's kind of similar to what our teachers have to do.
So I can't check.
Yeah.
And also, a good way to do it is with spaghetti. Instead of doing it with the tape, so you get spaghetti noodles and the marshmallows. Because, you know, to try to build things together with that, because the spaghetti is wobbly. So that also is a good way to do it.
Yeah, there's actually something that the children will be doing in November, building a structure with pretzel sticks and marshmallows. You could do that with them. So they're also getting this opportunity to engage in an activity that the children will be doing in November. But it's a fun activity if you wanted to do that. So yeah, send me the bingo stuff too, because I think folks would like something like that to build team.
Sure.
All right, cool. So let's go on to the bulk of the day. So this is when, after folks get their break, this is when the real like experiential hands-on learning will take place. And one thing that we're trying to do this time for the PD versus other PDs that I've heard about is we want the teachers to be doing the most work hands-on and practicing with each other versus being talked at about logistics and things like that throughout the whole day. So we really want this to be an opportunity for folks to develop as teachers, as well as to be hands-on and engaged with each other. So the first session is from 10:15 to 10:45, and it's called A Day in the Life of Our Center. And I sent a facilitation guide for each of these. So the main purpose of this session is kind of like what you were saying, Diana, and all of the directors have stated this, is that there are so many inconsistencies in the programs right now. Inconsistencies with materials, inconsistencies with what staff's going to show up that day, if there's going to be enough teachers for the kids. All of these are, as an educational leader in your center, they're pretty much completely out of your control, unfortunately. But the message we want to send is, how do we create consistency for children that is within our control to help them feel safe. And one way to do that is, regardless of the adult that's in front of them, do children have a pretty regular schedule each and every day that they can depend on regardless of the adult that's in the room? So the first session is a day in the life of our center. And what you're going to be doing is seeking the wisdom of the teacher. So the purpose of a schedule is it supports and consistency for the children and for the teachers. So even if sub teachers come in, they can see something which is like, okay, so at this time during the day, I should be doing this type of thing with the children. Schedules also ensure that children are getting a day that is enriching and engaging on all levels for them, academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. And schedules and a consistent flow of the day also supports children in feeling that there's some level of predictability in their day, and it can minimize those misbehaviors that actually are probably the most exhausting for teachers. And the goal is for teachers to be able to identify what a high quality early childhood schedule entails, as well as provide you with specific feedback for their age group. So what you're going to do is, the way that this session starts is just a quick popcorn brainstorm, a couple of minutes, asking the group, why is having a schedule for the day important for our center? See where they're at, see if they agree with that statement, see what they have to say. And then as they're sharing, you can kind of like write down on the chalkboard or chart paper, if you have it, what their responses are. And then what you're going to do is just do a little mini lecture, no more than 2 to 3 minutes long, about the purpose of schedules. You'll tell them like why structure is important for kids, ensuring that it's an enriching day. It also helps support children in that kindergarten transition where they'll be on a more consistent schedule. So they need to somehow get used to that idea. And then it also helps with new staff. And then, but most of the time, 20 minutes is really spent on what you're going to do is you're splitting the teachers into their teaching pairs, teacher and co-teacher. And you'll hand them an exemplar schedule. And I provided that in the facilitation guide at the very end. And this was actually provided by another ed director in the Bronx. And so what you'll do is you're going to hand that to each of the teaching teams and give them some time together to look at the schedule. And you can give them some guided questions to take notes on with each other. So asking them if there's components of the schedule that they feel should take longer or shorter based off of their specific age group. Is there anything you would take away from the schedule or add on? And what would you shift or change maybe in the order of the agenda? So one thing that you may see with your staff is that those who work in early childhood, like young children, they'll probably look at the schedule and say that those routines, like the bathroom rituals and those transitions, will probably take longer. And as the children get older, those type of rituals and routines should be taking a shorter amount of time. So they may be saying things like that to you. They then give those schedules with their revisions back to you, and that will be the final schedules that you create for each class. Are there any questions about that one? And it should be no more than half an hour. Diane, any questions about that one?
No, I don't have any questions.
That one's fine? Okay. So after the day in the life of our center, what happens after that is they move into routines and transitions. This is probably the area that the most ed directors have mentioned leads to the most challenges in their centers. So what we want to do is from 10:45 to 11:30, you're going to have teachers identify transitions and come up with strategies. So I'll pull up that guide right here. So transitions and routines PD. And what this session really does is it introduces teachers to different transitions and creative routines to support consistent learning environments for children that are safe and engaging. And so what you want to do is the purpose. And the purpose of this is I don't think many teachers realize that without routines and transitions, those misbehaviors come out even more strongly with children. So what you want to get them to do first is you set them up again in kind of like a popcorn style sharing for a couple of minutes. Have teachers share what the different transitions are that they notice with their children during the school day. And they may say things like when kids arrive, after nap time, bathroom time, between circle time and stations. Like they should be able to identify those things, and then you're writing them down. You do a quick mini lecture of why transitions are important for children, and you know this, but just reminding them that that sense of predictability and consistency and structure helps set children up for success and a feeling of safety, supports them in their kindergarten transition, as well as builds consistency for teachers, as well as minimizing those misbehaviors. And then you want to give a bulk of the time to identifying what high quality routines and transitions look like. So as a large group, I provided an example of some transition songs that teachers can listen to, as well as an example video of a high quality pre-K classroom. After they watch the videos for a whole group discussion, you can ask the teachers to share what examples of transitions did you see in the videos, and are there other songs perhaps that they use in transitions in their own classroom? And then you want to put them into small groups. So after that, you do small groups based off of different transitions. So one group will be school arrival. Another group will be maybe from breakfast to circle time, that transition. Another group will be from playtime back to the classroom. Another group will be the bathroom transition and then after nap. And then what they're going to have to do in small groups is come up with a couple of creative routines that they've used for those transitional times. And then they teach it back to each other. So they are each other's greatest resource. But all right. Any questions about that one?
So yes, I have a question.
Cool.
Wait, once they break up in groups,
Mm-hmm.
after everybody's done, everybody kind of speaks about it in their own individual groups, or we speak about it in the whole.
In the whole one. So
Okay.
each small group is assigned one of those transitions. So like there's a small group that's responsible just for arrival time. There's another small group that's just responsible for breakfast into circle time. And then they're coming up in their small groups with a couple of transitional strategies to teach back to everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Cool. All right. So that one's going to be kind of fun because it's mostly teachers coming together and teaching back these fun songs and dances, like the cleanup song or claps that they have, or songs that they've sung that cue to the children that it's time to transition from one thing to the next. And that's a really big area for teachers. And it's better to get them teaching back routines versus talking at them about what to do. You want to give them an opportunity to practice teaching with each other. The next one after, I'm kind of excited about because there's been lots of questions from ed directors around what are the purpose of these observation forms, because observations come with so many different connotations and a lot of teachers get really intimidated by them, understandably so. So what we want to do is kind of shift the mindset around the observation. So what you're going to do as an ed director, and this is under observation review and teacher best practice sharing, is initially what you're going to do is you're going to give each teacher and co-teacher a blank observation form, like with nothing written on it. And you're going to give the teachers 5 minutes to independently and quietly look through the observation form and put a star next to the components they are pretty clear on. Like, okay, I know what that means. I get that. And then write a question mark next to the components that they really don't understand. So how are they expected to teach things or demonstrate things that they really don't know what that looks like and means? So for example, many teachers have a clear understanding of, okay, my materials need to be labeled and organized. Like, that's very cut and dry. That's clear. They know what that means. But some teachers, when they look at that observation form component and it says like scaffolding instruction, they may be like, you know what, I honestly have no idea what that means. Like, what do you mean by that? What are you looking for? And so that gives you an opportunity to clarify to them, okay, like, this is what I'm looking for under that component. This is what it looks like. And to help you out with that, I can answer any questions or anything that comes up if you need any clarity on the observation forms. So you want to take note of what they're clear about and what they're unclear about. And then they're taking the observation forms back again for their own personal reflection. So once you clarified why observations are important and what the different components of the observation form are, the teachers are then taking that form and doing self-reflection for themselves. So they're looking at the form and they're identifying, okay, using this to look at my own teaching, I know I'm strong in these areas, and I can admit that I need support in these areas, these other areas. So some teachers may say, you know what, I'm really great at organizing my classroom. I got that down. I'm good. But I know that my behavior management is something I'd like support in. So they're using those observation forms to self-reflect. And then they're sharing back in like a partner group what they've identified for themselves. And then they can give those forms back to you. So you can see if what you've noticed aligns to what they're noticing about themselves. And then before lunch, give them the opportunity to teach back something they feel good about in their classroom. So one teacher may be like, I have this great thing I do during circle time. This is what I do. Another teacher may be like, listen, like, I've had a hard time with behavior management, but I do this positive reinforcement strategy. You can try it out too. So you want to give them an opportunity to be leaders and to teach each other things that they know that they're good at and that you've recognized that they're good at. Because I feel like something that is a struggle here is that teachers feel like they're not recognized and centers don't feel like they're recognized for the good work they're doing. So we want to make sure there's time for that too. All right, pausing on that. And then they go to lunch for about 45 minutes. Questions about those so far?
No, I don't have any questions. I like the fact that the teachers get to share some of the things because, you know, we don't get time to go into everybody else's. The teachers don't get time to go into each other's classrooms, so it's going to be nice for them to share ideas within each other.
Yeah, and you see, it's interesting because teachers come alive with that type of thing. Like, you'll see the same teachers that are a little bit resistant all of a sudden come alive and like really want to share what they're doing, because being a teacher could be a very isolating thing. Like, you're just caught in your classroom trying your best. And so it's really nice to celebrate with each other what's going well. I would love to see one time teachers doing co-observations in each other's classrooms, but given that they're short staffed, that's difficult. But ideally, that would be a great thing to set up eventually. They go to lunch from 12:30 to 1:15, and then they come back and they have like 2 more big meaty sessions based off of what folks have said are challenging as of right now. One of the biggest things that has been spoken about time and time again is this idea of lesson planning. Teachers know that it's a requirement, but they were never really developed in how to do it well. Starting in October, folks have gotten these exemplar lesson plans that were written by me. I've heard that teachers are really liking them, which makes me very happy. But ideally, what we want to get them to do is to use those exemplar lesson plans to frame their own way of planning for their children. So the lesson plan workshop is where you're going to do a couple of things, and it's about an hour long, and it's so much that we're doing in such a short amount of time. But what you want to do is introduce them to the November curriculum and give them an opportunity to start planning. So the first thing you do is just define for your team what different lesson plan components are. So you'll post either Post-its or chart paper around the room, each labeled with one of the different lesson plan components. So there's circle time, there's reading time, there's large group, interest areas, outdoor play, and you put that around the room, and just for 5 minutes, give teachers some Post-its to write any thoughts or ideas or definitions that they come up with when they think about each of those different lesson plan areas. Because you want to see if they even know what they mean or what the differences are. And for your own reference, at the end of that facilitation guide, I provided some just clear-cut definitions of those different lesson plan component areas in case you need help with defining what they are. So after they do that, they will get an opportunity as well to think about like what their roses and thorns are for lesson planning. So in the large group, the roses have the teachers, and this is for more kinesthetic learners, you have them stand by the lesson plan component chart paper that brings them the most joy in their day. Like, so most teachers have one part of the day that they like more than others. For some of them, they really love reading time. Others of them, they may really like large interest group times. So have them stand next to what they like the most and have a couple of them explain why they stood where they stood. And then a thorn is have teachers stand by the lesson plan component that they find to be the most challenging or the least engaging, and then ask them to share why they stood there. You're going to do a brief little lecture, no more than a couple of minutes, about why lesson planning is even important, like why does it matter? And the points that you want to hit on are that lack of planning leads to lacks of structure and increase in misbehaviors with children, which is definitely true. If you don't have a plan, the children will kind of feel unregulated and act out in a variety of ways. Planning intentionally around a theme can help increase a child's engagement of new concepts. And it makes teaching a lot easier because what they want to do is reconnect everything for the day back to the theme of the day. So it provides more structure for the teacher as well. What you then want to do is, based off of what you maybe have seen in your teachers, you may want to provide them with an example low quality and high quality lesson plan. If you don't have a high quality lesson plan, you can give them one of the ones that I handed out in October for them to see. And then they could break up into small groups to just identify what are the differences they see between the low quality lesson plans and the high quality lesson plans. And then you want to give them at the end time to do small group lesson planning. So kind of like throughout the whole rest of the day, you're going to split the group up into smaller groups. One group will be circle time. One group will be large group. Another group will be interest areas. Another group will be outdoor play or gross motor. And another group will be assigned reading. And then give them a couple of minutes to plan an activity for the theme, which is builders and buildings, and which is for November. And then give them an opportunity to teach back the activity to the whole group. And then that's pretty much it for that one. But the main takeaway is you want to see if everyone can plan something connected to the theme for different parts of a typical learning day for the children. Yeah. Any questions on that one?
No, that was good.
Okay, so that one's pretty clear. And then at the end of the day, we want to give them an opportunity to make over their classrooms, but in like a fun way. So what you're going to do is give teachers just 30 minutes or so to draw out like ideal areas of their classroom. So they're creating like this ideal on a poster board blueprint of what their ideal classroom would look like. They share it back to one another. And then you break them off into their actual classrooms to make over their classes. And then you take a picture of the best one and you text or send it over to me so we can celebrate it during the newsletter. Good. All right. So that's October 25th. Any questions about the PB day?
No, I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Like, I know that you have a good grasp on these things. So I think that the agenda was really, really responsive to what folks have been sharing and what I've seen in the different centers as the greatest areas of development. I also feel that it's innately engaging for the teachers. It puts a lot of the time on them practicing with one another and being seen as professionals and treated as professionals, which is important. Now, if there are spots during the day where, say, your center really has been in a place where the DOH is there often, or they're transitioning, like there's things that come up with parents, like you may want to put in a little bit of time to go over those things, but don't make it a bulk of the day. Like put it in strategically, anything that has to do with logistics. Of course, go through it with the team, but you really want this to be a time for them to develop as teachers. Okay. So that's the agenda for the 25th. And then the week after that, on October 31st, is the Halloween event. So at this point, or the fall festival event, or dress as your favorite character. So at this point, every center has received the flow of the day, activity, and the event planning form, and the materials for the event. So some centers have said it would be better in the afternoon, given dismissal. Other centers want to do it in the morning. That's completely up to you based off of what you know about your teachers, what would work best for them and the parents. But the ideal situation is you want to give the parents and the families an opportunity to almost go through a mini learning day as their children would. So when they come in, there's decorations and those stickers in the front lobby that were given as materials. They get welcomed by you all. And then the first thing they do is they go into a circle time with their children, where maybe they share, you know, something that excites them about fall. Maybe some sort of like fun Halloween, or like a song or something like that, a welcome song, a circle time with the parents. Kind of like what the kids would do on the reading rug. And then from 10 to 10:30, or for the second part, they do an art activity and a creation station where they create these finger paint paper pumpkins. So you should have the paper plates, the yellow finger paint and the red finger paint, the green pipe cleaners, and the brown construction paper. And they're just combining the colors to see that red and yellow makes orange, and they're creating these pumpkins from the paper plates together. After that, they do some sort of like fun movement or game. I provided a couple of different examples, but you could also do your own, something that has to do with movement and song. Then there's some sort of read aloud. So maybe a book that the teachers really like about fall, or that the children really like. Then you can have some sort of like potluck food photo opportunity. The stickers and things like that give a nice way for parents and children to take selfies with one another. And then a takeaway is they can get one of those little plastic pumpkins as they leave. And then you, as the ed director, can give each family like some candy or something on the way out. I would love to see the teachers have some sort of positive thing to say about each child and like put it in the pumpkins for the parents, but that's really up to your center, because we want to build a positive relationship with the families as well. So that's the Halloween event. Any questions about that one?
So I don't have a question. I'm actually what we're doing here on Broadway is we're doing Spirit Week starting
Ooh.
on Monday, October 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just have a really festive week coming into the party on Thursday. So we're gonna start our week off with Wacky Tacky Day, followed by Crazy Sock Day, Crazy Hair Day, and then we're calling our party the Storybook Character. We're calling Thursday the Storybook Character Day here. And we're
Hello, Diana. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. So you're doing a storybook character day for the actual fall festival day?
yeah, that's gonna be what the day is gonna be called Storybook Character Day.
Mm-hmm.
And Friday we'll end with Pajama Day.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah, so basically it's just gonna be just a fun week for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of dressing up, a lot of silly things, and tons of, I guess, family involvement in a lot of these days too. Crazy Hair Day. What I ask the parents is, even for Storybook Character Day, is that yes, they can buy a costume, but if they can create one, that's also a really cool idea. Something to do with their child together. There's
Mm-hmm.
tons of great ideas on Pinterest.
I like that. And like, so the parents, it's kind of like an open door thing for the parents the whole week.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I feel like if that's like something that you want to create with your staff that would work, then definitely. I know that you have a lot of positive relationships with the families, so that's something that could be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And then the last little bit is the calendar that was sent out already for November. Okay, so October were the senses, and the curriculum somewhat aligns with the themes of the creative curriculum that's immersed in the Head Start programs. And the reason we're trying to do this is so there is some level of consistency with programs and curriculum for all of our centers. And one of the themes was around builders. So for November, the focus is really around builders, buildings, and then the last week it shifts a little bit, but it's around gratitude. So each week, kind of like in October, you'll be getting the calendar already. And each week, you'll be getting an exemplar lesson plan to help support your teachers in lesson plan creation. But a lot of it is really based around what are buildings made out of, what identifies their homes. There's a couple of activities where children get to practice balance and gross motor skills with creating towers out of different materials and creating their own bricks out of like mud and seeing how the mud dries and creating tall structures from marshmallows and pretzels. We changed a lot of the visuals from being pictures of houses to pictures of apartments because that's where many of our children live, and we want to make sure that the visuals represent what the children identify as their homes. A lot of it is very, very hands-on. And then the last week is really focused around this concept of gratitude. What are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for? And then that day before the Thanksgiving break is really going to be like some sort of fun gratitude giving potluck with families. Yeah. And then November is also an interesting month because it's parent teacher conferences on many of those days, but still a typical school day will be happening alongside of parent teacher conferences. Okay, pausing there. So how do we feel about the November curriculum?
I literally just started printing it out this morning, so I haven't had a chance to look over it 100% yet.
Yeah.
But looking at the calendar here and what I looked at earlier, it looks. I think the teachers are gonna like it. I think they're gonna have some fun with it. And I think there's something that the children can relate to. So I really like that about it.
Yeah, and I put in the final material list last week. So hopefully, I don't want to bombard centers with materials because they have things coming in. They have things like coming in for the fall event and all this other stuff. So I want to make sure that materials come in a way that feels intentional. But the material stuff has been confirmed as well.
Okay.
You know. Are there any other areas of support as of right now that you think that we should focus on for our next Zoom call, or anything that could be supportive for your center as of this moment?
I think we had spoke about parent-teacher conference. I did see some. You emailed a few things for parent-teacher conference. So I think I would like to hear how other centers are doing it, or have they done it before.
Mm-hmm. For everyone, it's either been something that has been done outside of here and folks are trying to replicate what they've heard or seen from other areas into the parent teacher conferences, or there's a lot of structure given to Head Start programs, and I've asked the Head Start programs to give over what they have to us. So those things that I sent over with the different benchmarks, like that form that was sent over through White Plains, that's through Early Head Start, as well as those like sign-in sheets. So there's like the logistical piece of like scheduling like 15 to 20-minute time slots for parents to sign up for parent-teacher conferences with their teachers that they could do in the front office. And then Brookie said she'll be sending over another sheet of like kind of like a checklist of things to go over with parents about like, okay, so youth developmentally, here is what we're learning, and this is the type of things we're developing in the children. But yeah, I think that this hasn't happened at Beanstalk before. Like, it's a new initiative from what I'm hearing. So I think we're all going to have to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I asked the group to send over something, so hopefully more stuff will come through.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Cool. So I will send over this recording in a little bit. Yeah, and if there's anything else that you need, let me know for sure. And let me know how October 25th goes too.
Okay, great. I will.
All right. Thanks, Anna.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.